Can you hear me?
Hi sir, so where do you see the cost of rooftop solar going in 1 year?
Well, in terms of total cost of install, I think there's typically a 3 to 5% reduction every year, and most of that is passed on in the form of per unit energy. So I think we could look at possibly a 50 paisa reduction in the per kilowatt hour on the per unit basis.
Okay sir. And what are the industrial consumers expecting out of rooftop solar projects?
I think that's a good question because it is, the customer and their expectation that really drives the demand. We have tried to force fit the solution, and some people have tried this as an experiment, if not an experiment, as a initial sort of focus on sustainability for the first year or two of the growth of this industry. But a lot of this is being driven by a much more, if you say, more systematic approach now. And there, what we have seen, the key expectation emerge is that first, do no harm. Sort of come, provide a good product. So the transition to quality, we are seeing that over this 2 years. So first thing is quality. Second thing is, of course, it's a non-starter unless it saves them money on a per unit basis. And the third thing is there's a little bit of a concern around the length of or duration. So if there's anything that we can do to reduce duration, they like that. Those are the three things that they expect. And safe, no headache in sort of running of the plant, where they don't have to participate too much.
Okay. So what key challenges do the developers face today while managing a distributed rooftop solar portfolio?
So the two key challenges, one which is well understood, the reason why utility scale solar took off well before CNI or residential sector did. So the rooftop sector faces the issue of basically it being difficult to finance, because you have to put together a fairly large portfolio of about 50 projects or so, the kind of portfolio that, say, we now have, before you can look at external sources of financing. So you need a substantial equity before you are able to go into that position. So that's one huge challenge. And in managing a portfolio, it's distributed, right? Distributed as solar. So any project that develops an issue, you have to find a very smart way, both from a data perspective and from how quickly you can send your O&M team to sort of address the problem. From that perspective, you really have to have smarter ways of doing things, because you can't manage it the way you would a utility scale or a gas-fired power plant.
Okay. So which states, according to you, have the most conducive policies for the rooftop solar industry?
Look, various states have good policies. I think really what it boils down to is which states are the most focused on making it crystal clear what will and will not happen. Karnataka has definitely taken a very clear step, but that's in the direction of open access, which is not rooftop, but at least there's one clear policy. So if you really ask, in our view, all states have reasonably good policy towards rooftop solar because they don't interfere too much. But what can really be a big game changer is the state that comes out and lays out a crystal clear policy on net metering. How it is incredibly easy to do for third-party owned plants on the rooftop of a customer whose meter it is that the DISCOM supplies its grid power into. Those states, I would go so far as to say none have made it crystal clear. Delhi is probably the closest, but then Delhi doesn't have too many roofs. So, yeah.
Okay. What are the latest trends in demand for your products and services in India?
Very, very positive trends. For most part, we are unable, like most others, are not able to keep up with the demand. From the best rated customers, from other customers. There are a lot of customers who are not the highest credit rating but want this product, and most of the industry struggles to provide them power. So the key trend is demand, high demand for the product. There are other trends which are simplifying the product, making it simpler to install, making the PPAs less complicated, shorter tenor. Those are some of the other trends and preferences, and slightly reducing costs. Continuously reducing costs, not huge jumps, but by small amounts, say 10 to 20 paisa every 6 months or so.
Okay. Are subsidies important for the growth of the rooftop solar industry?
Clear policy is a whole lot more important for the rooftop industry than subsidies are. Subsidies are always valuable. They enable the faster growth of a sector, perhaps in the government sector. The way, therefore, the SECI and others are making subsidies may be necessary because it would be natural for those stakeholders, government institutions and central government departments to do this themselves. So all these things drive volume, but the single most important thing, far more important than subsidy, is for CNI, for basically residential rooftop, where we have reached, which is grid parity, is clear policy and easy net metering. If we do these two things, at least on the private side, the CNI industry, the rooftop industry will take care of itself. And then subsidies are always welcome.
Okay, sir. So, what are the milestones that your company wishes to achieve by the end of this fiscal?
Yeah, good question. Now, obviously we aren't able to share in every detail, say some of the internal milestones. But like I mentioned, that we have now closed about 50 projects. This is pan-Asia. About 70% of that is in India. I think we would seek to double that volume, and perhaps to some extent, start looking at other products, maybe how to supply customers who are not the highest credit, maybe a little bit of open access. Those are some of the new avenues that we would like to venture out into. I think on rooftop, we couldn't have had a more incredible journey. 50 projects over a period of like 1.5 years or so. It has been fantastic, but you don't rest on your laurels from the past, right? You got to look forward, and hence, the answer to the question is probably double that volume and look into these 2 or 3 new avenues of, new products.
Amazing. So, anything else you would like to add for our readers?
No, I think first of all, your magazine is a very valuable addition to the sphere of publication, and there's not a lot, so we need a lot more of that. We do need to separate out the solar rooftop industry separate from even open access, as it is separated from the utility scale solar, because those are different products, completely different products. So it is important to keep looking at this asset class differently, and I think only few players like yourselves are kind of focused on that differentiation, and that is perhaps a important difference. It will always be little different and little difficult to do a rooftop, whether it's residential or CNI, versus the ground-mounted utility scale, whether it's open access or utility scale solar. So I think we would come back and make that key point. Look at Solar City, look at Sun Edison, look at First Solar. They're different models, different success, all successful in their own ways. We need to keep respecting that difference and grow as 2 separate industries, if you will.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.